Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to another episode of the Geek Bravado Ramble. So yeah, in my most recent vlog update, I said I might not be doing another one of these for a while, and well, pretty much right after I stopped recording that, subject came up that I felt was probably worthy of talking about on here. Going to be writing a blog entry about this maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow night. I'm recording this on July the 3rd, 2013. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about this new development that has happened with Double Fine's Broken Age Kickstarter game. So I'm sure by now, if you follow this stuff that you've read about it, it's received a fair amount of attention. So the quick synopsis is that, well, Double Fine was arguably one of the first developers to really kick off the huge Kickstarter crowdfunding craze for games last year when they decided that they wanted to try to kickstart a new traditional point-and-click adventure game. They asked for 400 grand. They got over $3 million, including a good chunk of change from me. I think I contributed to one of the I think I got the $100 tier, if I recall correctly. I got a poster, I got a shirt, which, funny enough, I'm not wearing right now because it has to be washed. But I've worn it on these videos before. And a bunch of other stuff, including a copy of the game when it comes out. And part of what they did with this Kickstarter as well was that they were going to have a video documentary done of the whole thing. And they said, whether this thing turns out great or whether it's a disaster, we're going to have it all on film. And I actually haven't watched the latest episode that came out with this sort of revelation the other day. I have to watch it. It's a long episode, so I just haven't had time yet. But basically what has been announced, and it was alluded in an earlier one of those documentary videos, that the project was having some financial budgetary concerns. As Tim Schafer has since come out and said, this is not Double Fine, the company as a whole, that's in financial trouble. But basically what he's saying is that they overscoped the game, and it is now going to cost more to produce in the form they wanted than they raised. Basically, the $3 million is not enough to fund the game that he designed. And what they're going to do is they're going to break the game up into two parts now. The first part is going to become available to backers like myself. I believe it was in January. And they're also going to put that on the Steam Early Access system for people to purchase in who didn't kickstart the game or who didn't kickstart high enough in order to guarantee themselves a copy of the game. So quick little thing here. What Steam Early Access is a new feature that Valve recently rolled out for their digital distribution service that allows creators to put up games that are not yet finished and allow you to buy into their development. I guess kind of like a Kickstarter, not as involved. Basically, you put your product out there in whatever state it's in and say, hey, if you want to buy into this, you can keep playing it as the development evolves and contribute to making the game better. It's a neat idea. There's a lot of games that are doing that. The big one is Prison Architect. There's a few other ones out there that are making a go of it as well. And that's what they're going to do is they're going to put the first part of Broken Age up there. Everyone who wants to buy it and didn't kickstart it will be able to. They will then be taking that money to help fund completion of the game. And then I guess the way it's going to work is anyone who kickstarted will still get the second part. And if you bought into early access, you will also get the second part. And then at that point, anyone who hasn't bought in yet and wants to will be able to buy the whole complete package at, normal retail release kind of thing. So there has been a lot of discussion about this, needless to say. And, well, a lot of people, it's the internet, so a lot of people are losing their minds and using this as an excuse to be pissy and bitchy because, well, that's what people do on the internet, especially in the gaming community. And I've been trying to sort of reconcile what I think about this. So that's kind of what the point of this is because I haven't really made a decision yet on how I feel about both this course of action and that the project has ended up in this position. And maybe sort of talking about it out loud here will help me do that before I write the actual blog entry. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I figure it's a good idea to sort of do this to spur some discussion on the subject as well for other people to talk about. So the first thing I want to state is that I am not angry about this. I am not raging about this in any way, shape, or form. Simple fact of the matter is that Kickstarters are a gamble. That's exactly what they are, in almost the truest sense. You are putting your money down in the hope that what you are backing will come out and that it will be as good as you hope it will be, but there are no guarantees offered. None whatsoever. There theoretically are some safeguards in place to guard against fraud, but if you pledge to a company that cannot complete their goal for particular reasons or does not deliver a product that you like, them's the breaks. And I've known that, like, the Double Fine Adventure or Broken Age now was not the first Kickstarter I contributed to. I think the first one I contributed to was Indie Game the Movie, which has actually been out for a long time, and which, ironically, is the one to this point, I've had the most trouble with because I still don't have all my backer rewards from them because, well, I put in a tier to get the special edition Blu-ray of that movie, which, despite the fact that the movie's been out well over a year now, I think that Blu-ray is still not done. And they are being very coy about when it's going to be done, but that's another subject. I think that's the first Kickstarter I put into, though, and everything. I've contributed to a lot of Kickstarters. I actually have not added up the total amount that I've spent on them. I kind of don't want to because I would probably make me cry a little bit. But let's see here. How many Kickstarters have I actually pitched into? I'm going to say that it's probably well over 30 at this point. Almost all of them games, too. Not all of them. A few of them are other things. But let's see. My backed projects. Oh, Jesus. 49. Yeah. I have backed 49 Kickstarters. Now, I know for a fact that some of those were canceled and didn't complete, or didn't either canceled or didn't fund. And it keeps track of those too, right? So, but yeah, I've contributed to a lot of Kickstarters, and I've spent a lot of money. But I know or knew going in that every single one of those was a gamble, and that I was putting my money down because I believed in either the developer or the vision that they were putting out there, and it sounded like it was something I wanted to play. So I took the chance. I have scaled back on that a lot because I knew I was spending too much on them. And there have been some Kickstarters that I have not contributed to that were nonetheless big successes and which have disappointed people. So I've decided to sort of back that off a little bit. So yeah, anyone who is getting enraged about this needs to shut the hell up. If you pitched your money to Broken Age, then you took the risk. And the fact of the matter is, you are owed something from a moral standpoint. You are not owed something from any kind of legal standpoint, and that they have had difficulties with the project is too bad for you. Anyone who wants to play Broken Age will be able to do so when it comes out and didn't have to put in a cent beforehand. If you did that, you kind of are taking the risk, and you don't, in my opinion, you don't really get to be angry per se. You can be disappointed, you can have concerns about it, you can certainly not back Double Fine Kickstarters in the future, but some of the rage that I'm seeing is just unbelievably, it's not even irrational, it's just dumb, it's just stupid. And yeah, I mean, people say they love the idea of crowdfunding and how many games this is now allowing to get made that with the traditional publisher system would never get made. Well, if this is the reaction creators can expect pretty much universally, because it doesn't matter what they're going to do, there's always going to be a segment of people who don't approve, then we're probably going to see less people trying this route. And that's not good for anybody. That's not good for the people who want more innovative, different games. And that's not good for the creators either. because they're either not going to get to make the games they want to make, or they're going to have to go to more traditional routes that will probably ensure that they either still can't make the games they want to make, or the games are going to be very different from what they had envisioned. So anyway, that's the the point on that. But this is where I'm conflicted. Is in terms of how Double Fine got here, their history with this type of thing, and whether or not this strategy of breaking the game up is a good idea, and whether or not some of the statements that they, or in particular Tim Schafer himself, have made are entirely genuine is not the right word, but I don't know, realistic maybe. So here's the thing. To say that I am a Double Fine and particular Tim Schafer fanboy probably is not inaccurate. Some of the earliest games I played in my life were LucasArts adventure games that he had a hand in. They're some of my favorite games of all time. He is a extremely smart guy. He is an extremely good game designer, and he's funny, not just as a person, but as a designer. And making games that are genuinely funny is incredibly hard, insanely hard. And he's one of the few people who not only can do it, but has done it consistently historically. Almost all the games he's ever made have been very funny games in some way or another, and very different from each other in many cases as well. And he has pulled off some incredible feats in that respect. He is one of gaming's greats. There's no doubt about that, and I have nothing but respect for him. And though I haven't liked every Double Fine release, I have always had great respect for the fact that Double Fine has not leaned heavily on sequels. The vast majority of their titles are new IPs. They are always new ideas, and their new strategy that they have for releasing a lot of small titles quickly instead of big AAA titles, I think is a good thing. I really like big AAA games, as I've said before, but the types of games they make I don't necessarily think are well suited to that format. Psychonauts was really good. Brutal Legend, I didn't care for the strategy part of that game at all, but the universe, world, and characters were amazing, and the humor was really good too. But those games took a very, very long time to make, and some of the stuff that they've put out since has had some of that trademark humor and whatnot in it while retaining a smaller scope. So I think that's really good as well. And I really liked that that's kind of what they were going for with Broken Age. But this is where I get frustrated with them as a company, because one of the biggest problems you'll consistently hear from people who complain about the business side of the game industry is feature creep and poor project management. Feature creep is a very simple idea. It's basically that your ideas outgrow themselves. You start with a particular vision for something, and this doesn't just have to be software, this can be other things. You start with a vision for something, and then what happens is as you go through development, people go, oh, wouldn't it be cool to throw this in? Wouldn't it be cool to throw this in too? Hey, what about this? What if we change this to do this? Oh, now because we changed this, we have to change this. And all of a sudden, your design document goes from this fairly tight vision and goes like this. And now, there have been some incredible games that have come out of that philosophy. Grand Theft Auto is one big example. Some of the best games ever made suffered from that, from feature creep. The problem is the majority of games that do that usually end up going way over time, over deadline, way over budget, and often fail because they can't recoup what was put into them. And some of them don't even make it to release. They just sort of cave in under their own weight. From what I have read about Double Fine's history, that is very common for them. Psychonauts was late and over budget. Now, granted, that went through a weird publisher change thing. Brutal Legend was late and over budget, though, again, Brutal Legend went through some business hell because of Activision being the scum of the earth. And not all of their projects have been late, but some of them since then have been late, but a decent number of them have been. it does seem that Double Fine has a problem with not being able to properly manage scope and, frankly, just suffering from kind of poor project management. And that bothers me. It bothers me what they're doing in this situation because they asked for 400 grand for this Kickstarter. Presumably, they did the work beforehand to determine that that's what they needed to make the game they wanted to make. They got, I can't do math right now, but it wasn't 10 times, obviously, because that would have been $4 million, but they got over $3 million, so many, many times, many orders of magnitude greater than what they asked for originally. And now, all of a sudden, even with all that much more money, the game has apparently bloated out so much that that's not enough anymore. And I'm kind of like, what? Like, I appreciate that Tim Schafer went, okay, great, we've got all this extra money, let's make a way better game. And that's awesome. That's what he should do. But clearly he didn't scope that properly. And my other question is, like, this is not going to be some 40-hour epic, at least I don't think it is. And if that's the case, like, how did he think he was going to be able to make a full-blown for-money project on only 400 grand if after getting so much more they've realized that they're not going to have nearly enough money to complete it? There's some kind of weird disconnect problem there, and we'll never truly know the reason for that unless he goes on one of their documentaries or goes in an interview and plainly states what happened. The way he explains it in an open letter he put out to backers of the project was that he basically made too big a game. And my answer to that is, well, in most business situations, if you have a project that got bigger than its britches, your solution is to scale it back, not to go hat in hand to ask for more money. Now, I appreciate that they don't want to compromise their vision, and I think that's very smart. But at the same time, like I said, Kickstarters are a roll of the dice. You pays your money, you takes your chances. But at the same time, this is not what we signed up for. This is not what we pledged for. We pledged to get a complete product, and now we're getting a product that's split in half, and which apparently doesn't have the money to be finished. See, this is what I'm worried about now, is they didn't want to run another Kickstarter. They didn't want to go to a publisher. But what they're saying is that they're putting it... See, this is where I have a real problem, is one of the things Tim Schafer said is he said all the money was properly spent, and he said we are not asking for more money. But I'm kind of like, well, if you're not asking for more money, then you don't need more money. And if you don't need more money, why are you splitting the game up and putting it on Steam Early Access? Which, by the way, I hate to tell you, is asking for money. Your Steam Early Access means that you're putting your unfinished product up for sale. That is asking for more money. You're not putting it out there as a demo. Your Kickstarter already ended. So, yeah, by putting it on Early Access, you are asking for more money. Now, there's not anything wrong with that necessarily, especially if you want to finish the game the way you wanted to finish it. But what concerns me now is, what if you put it up on Steam Early Access and nobody bites, nobody buys it? What's the likelihood of that? It's probably not that strong. I mean, they put the alpha of Planetary Annihilation, another Kickstarter game, on Steam Early Access for $90, and it was... I don't know if it was number one, but it was in the top 10 of the Steam sales charts for a while. So chances are it will probably do fairly well on Steam Early Access, and they probably will get the funding to finish it. But yeah, that's a concern, that you're going to split the game up and ask for more money, and that if nobody steps up, what's going to happen? Like, if not enough people say not enough people did step up and buy this game on Early Access, what's going to happen to it then? They wouldn't be doing this if they didn't need the money to finish it. So if they didn't need more money to finish the game the way they want to finish it, then they would just finish it and put it out as planned. So if they need more money and not enough people do it, then what? Do they have to launch another Kickstarter? Do they have to try to do something else? Like, I heard on a podcast a little while ago that the sort of appeared out of nowhere PC port of Brutal Legend that came out was actually to help partially to help fund Broken Age because they needed a secondary revenue stream and went, oh hey, we have this game, we got the PC publishing rights to it back. Why don't we just do a quick port and put that out and make some money on it? And again, there's nothing wrong with that. But if it's true that they did that to help fund Broken Age and now they need more money on top of that, like where does it end? This is getting kind of screwed up at this point. If that's true, I don't know if it was, but that's what I understood anyway. Somebody said that yeah, the Brutal Legend PC port was to try to bring in some quick money for the company to largely to help fund Broken Age. That I have a hard time reconciling that, honestly. It sounds a little disingenuous to me, and I don't think Tim Schafer's trying to pull a fast one on anybody. He's not the sort, but at least he doesn't strike me as the sort. I don't know him personally. But it seems a little disingenuous to me to be saying, hey, we're going to split this game up. We're going to put it up on Steam Early Access, which is going, but we're not asking for money, even though we're going to sell an unfinished product. We're not asking for more money, and we need this in order to finish the game because we would rather do this than cut it down, even though we overscoped it. And yeah, I guess my big concern is this seems to be another roll of the dice, and if the roll doesn't pay off, and it probably will because it's Double Fine, but if this wasn't Double Fine, then what would happen? You know, are they going to have to severely cut down the second half of Broken Age in order to get it out? Would we never see the second half of Broken Age? What would happen then? And yeah, that all concerns me greatly. And the thing that I find, to be honest, kind of a little bit offensive is that they did this so quickly after they closed their second Kickstarter for Massive Chalice, which is a completely different game that they're doing. I originally, when In Exile Entertainment tried the whole thing of running a second Kickstarter when your first Kickstarter game isn't out yet, I was originally kind of like, that seems a little scummy to me. But then Brian Fargo came out and explained why they did it, and I was like, yeah, okay, that actually kind of makes sense. It was basically that because they were a multi-team studio, the pre-production team had finished their first project and they had nothing for them to do, so they went, let's give them another project to work on, and I kind of understood that. I didn't contribute to Massive Chalice just because I'm not so sure about that game in terms of whether or not I would enjoy it, and also that, yeah, because of the state that I already knew Broken Age was in, I was kind of like, well, yeah, I think I might back off of this one, and I might just buy this one when it comes out. And that really bothers me because, I mean, they've known that this project was having financial issues for a while now because that was in a documentary video months ago before the Massive Chalice Kickstarter ever went up. And that Kickstarter went way over goal as well. So, I mean, people clearly didn't care very much, and that's fine. That's totally up to them. But it really bothers me that they got their money for that and then so quickly after came out and went, oh, yeah, by the way, this other project is actually way more screwed up than we told you it was originally, and now we've got to do this strategy to get more money because we can't finish it with the money that we have now. I gotta say, maybe they didn't intend for it to work out that way, but it really comes... that really comes across to me as kind of dishonest. I think the right thing to do would have been to say that initially, to go, look, here's the problem we have. We're not going to tell you that it was bad project management or that we're not doing this right. We'll leave that up to you to decide, but you decide that before you give us more money for this other game that we're looking to do. I think that would have been the right thing to do by their fans, and if it caused Massive Chalice to not get the money it desired, well, them's the breaks, you know. I also appreciate that Double Fine is in a weird position where they are one of the first big Kickstarters for video games. They are one of the really, really big ones, you know. Stretch goals, which are a big deal for Kickstarters now, didn't exist when they did their run. And I get that they're the guinea pig, and they're learning a lot of things about this that other developers have already learned going into it. So they're going to run into bumps and hurdles that other people may not necessarily. And I appreciate that, but it bothers me that this studio, which appears to have a history of potentially difficult project management, and this is not just them. I mean, bad project management and going over scope, over deadline, and over budget is rampant in the game industry. It's one of the reasons that the big AAA industry can't make money anymore, is because they don't scope things properly, and as a result, projects that come out have to sell more than is ever been remotely possible in order to actually recoup their costs. It's a systemic problem, honestly. And in creative industries, it's not an uncommon thing. You have people who have a vision, who want to do something, who don't want to compromise it, and sometimes that's at odds with business reality. Yeah, I get that. But at the same time, a bunch of people, myself included, put a lot of money into this project, and its scope has now completely changed. And after a great number of those same fans put money into another project, they're basically coming out and going, yeah, we kind of screwed up with this one, and we've got to do this thing now where it's going to release later, and we're going to release it in 2 parts, and we have to ask for more money, and we kind of don't know what's going to happen when this comes out, but we're going to say that we're not asking for more money even though we really are, and we're not going to say that the money that you gave us was misspent, even though if it wasn't misspent, this project would have been on track, and it's not anymore. It just kind of, it seems a little... Two-faced is too harsh a term. Like, it sounds like I'm getting angry about this, and I'm really not. But, it sounds like... I don't know. It sounds like they're talking out of both sides here when they say that, we're not asking for money, but if you look at what our actions are, we actually very clearly are asking for more money, and we're going to claim that the money was not spent improperly, where even though we're at a point where you gave us many orders of magnitude more than we said we needed to make this happen, and now we still can't make it happen. That's tough. That's really tough. I don't envy them. I don't envy Tim Schafer having to deliver this message. The man has a very good reputation with gamers, and it's no doubt taken a big hit from this. And he put himself out there. He didn't send some PR guy to do it for him. He didn't send some producer from the project to do it. He delivered the message himself, and he basically went, yep, this is on me. I'm the guy who runs the place. And I respect that, and I respect that he came out very plainly, didn't use a bunch of BS corporate language, and just said, yeah, we screwed up, and this is what we're doing about it. And I appreciate their honesty. I just don't know if I like what they're doing. I don't want to see Broken Age become less of a game than he wanted it to be. I don't think that does a service to him or the fans. But at the same time, I don't want to play half a game. It's not... Broken Age was not intended to be a series like The Walking Dead, for example, which was designed to be episodic and is designed to have hard stops and breaks in between large chunks of content. The Walking Dead works because it was designed around that philosophy. Broken Age is not supposed to be designed around that philosophy. It's not an episodic game. But they're going to be pushing it out. We're going to get half of it, and then we're going to get the other half of it at some nebulous time. Sure, I could just, avoid playing it until it's complete, and I may do that. I may do that, though it will probably be pretty hard to avoid spoilers and discussions about it if I choose to take that route. I just don't like the idea of... It feels like they're not fully... While they're coming out and trying to say, yeah, we screwed up, it also seems like they're not really fully admitting their culpability in this situation. They're coming out and saying they screwed up, but that the project is still on track, And we're asking, for, like I said before, they're asking for more money, yet they're not asking for more money, and the game is not going to be compromised, but we're releasing it late in a half-finished state. And oh, by the way, we're going to tell you all this right after you all stepped up and gave us a bunch of money for another Kickstarter, which maybe you wouldn't have had you known how we're kind of screwing up this one. Yeah, I don't know. There's something wrong there, and it may just be poor. It may just be that they had to come up with a way to address this very quickly, and they had to come up with something fast, and Tim Schafer maybe doesn't have all the answers at this point. That's possible. I mean, we've seen a lot of bad messaging in the game industry lately. But I don't know. It kind of feels like they're admitting that they screwed up without admitting they screwed up. And I really think a lot of people have said, myself included, to be honest, that for as hot as Kickstarter has been the last while, the real test for this crowdfunding model is going to be what happens after the first major failure. And by failure, I mean either major project that completely fails to deliver anything or delivers a lot less than what fans wanted. And I'm concerned that this could be the first one of those. I don't want this one to be the first one of those. And I don't want the idea of crowdfunding to get severely shaken by this, but I think it already kind of has. I think a lot more people now are going to be weary of pitching in either a lot of money or maybe even any money at all to future Kickstarters because of something like this. They're going to go, well, how do I know that this project isn't being run by somebody who's a bad planner and a bad manager and is going to, who has no one who's going to say no to him and who is going to go way, way, way beyond the vision of what the money's going to allow, and then kind of leave us all hanging. And that's a valid concern. It really is. I understand how Kickstarter is supposed to work and that it's supposed to be a gamble, but there's a lot of people out there who don't get that, or who didn't get that, or who didn't want to understand that. And this might be a bit of a rude wake-up call to those people, and a lot of those people are not going to want to spend money in the future on this stuff. And that's a bummer, because the only way a lot of these games are going to get made right now is by people putting money up front. They have to pay to make these things, and even if a bunch of people would have maybe stepped up and bought them after they got completed, that's the problem. They need the money up front in order to make these things happen right now. And I don't want to see that go away. But yeah, I think accountability and frankness are the two most critical elements for anyone who's using Kickstarter to be successful at it, I think. And we're getting the frankness right now, but I don't know if we're getting the accountability. Some of what they're saying almost sounds a bit like a non-apology apology, or more like non-reason reasons. Saying you're doing one thing but doing something else. I don't know. I'm funny enough, I came into this hoping that talking this out loud would help me reach a conclusion. And I'm probably even more undecided than I was before. What do you know about that, eh? So, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not mad about this. I think you can tell by watching me talk about this that I'm not mad about it at all. I'm not going to go raging going, I want my money back, damn it. Nothing like that. I still think the game will be good in what form it comes out in, and I hope it's good. But yeah, I mean, I didn't contribute to Massive Chalice for a reason, and that was before any of this was known. And I really don't know if I would pitch into any more Kickstarters from Double Fine at this point. I've cut down on my kickstarting a lot lately because very little of what I've contributed to has had any products see the light of day yet, and I want to see the fruits of some of that labor before I decide that this is something I really want to keep going into. And Yeah, I don't know. It's a shame that this is had to be the first big controversial one. I really wished it would have been something else, but I hope Double Fine can pull it off. I mean, they have overcome some incredible adversity. I mean, Psychonauts and Brutal Legend, think what you will of either game, but that team rode through hell and gone for both of those, and what we got in the end was pretty impressive, all things considered. So maybe this is kind of where they shine. Maybe this is where the most creative elements and the best polish for Broken Age will come from, is them being under pressure like this and knowing that they have frustrated fans who they have to deliver to. I mean, I've seen a couple of people today say on Twitter that now fans have an idea what the publishers feel like when someone comes to them and says they can't deliver on their timeline. And yeah, I think that's somewhat apt. Except the publishers obviously have a lot more money involved and shareholders to answer to, whereas with Kickstarter, it's your money and they don't answer to anybody. So yeah, it's interesting. I think they could have handled this situation better than they did. I think they could have. Um, yeah, I think they could have done the messaging better. I think they could have timed this better. I don't know if they intended to reveal this after the Broken Chalice Kickstarter or not. I think that was kind of a dick move, whether intentional or not. If it was intentional, it's a bigger dick move, but I think it was a bad thing to do in either case. I think a lot of those people probably feel a bit nervous now, and none of them can get their money back. So that's kind of weak if you ask me. But anyway, yeah, I hope I gave you guys something to think about with that. Anyway, that's sort of the various different points on the issue. Yeah, maybe I'll reach a conclusion by the time I write the blog that this is going to go along with. We'll see what happens with that. But yeah, we'll see. God, I really hope that game's good. I really do. I really want to. I'm still rooting for Broken Age, and I'm still rooting for Double Fine. This is a black mark that they didn't need, and I think they could have avoided. But what are you gonna do, right? All right, so yeah, that is a second episode of the Geek Bravado Ramble. So thank you guys all very much for watching, and if you like to discuss this or have some alternative viewpoints or whatever, please feel free to post a comment either here or on the blog entry itself, or in both places if you like. This is a weird issue, and it's a new issue, so there's a lot of discussion going around. A lot of people don't really know how to feel about it or what to make of it, because this is the kind of thing that hasn't really come up before, and that's kind of exciting in its own way, because crowdfunding is a new idea, and it's different, and it's a cool thing to have to talk about in some ways. So let's chat about it. I'd like to hear what people think. Yeah, so thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you next time.